You are listening to the Young Black Travelers Podcast, Black voices conversing on experiential travel, dedicated to creating a global community of travelers. Be bold, be inspired, be spontaneous. We are YBT.
And welcome to the Young Black Travelers Podcast. It's your girl, Krisan, backed by popular demand.
Popular demand.
oh, I got a little singing today. Okay, singing Asshur today. Wow. So yes, the founder Asshur and I talking man to man, man to woman, whatever. But we're here. We're here to talk about his 24-hour in Paris. Mm-hmm. Now, there is a backstory to this episode. Okay, so we're going to break it down to the backstory, and then the main conversation is going to be what he actually did in Paris. So,
Paris?
Asshur, you had quite a year. You went through Motherland. You went through a lot. So, we're going to start this backstory from Tanzania.
From Tanzania.
Yes. So, how did you get from Tanzania to Paris? Because you didn't even plan to go to Paris, right?
Yeah, you're right. Paris was not in the plans any at all. I was actually supposed to go to Ethiopia with Anthony. So you would have already heard that, we started a trip with Shayna, myself, Stella, and Anthony. And Shayna fell off at the end of Kenya. Then it was Stella, myself, and Anthony who did Tanzania, including Zanzibar. And then Stella left after our Tanzania leg. And then it was supposed to be Anthony and I going over to Ethiopia. And, literally, again, I planned this trip. I, was the one who made a lot of the arrangements and did a lot of the research. So I knew that visa was required for Ethiopia with an American passport. I also have, I'm a Vincentian national. I was born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I had a Vincentian passport, which I didn't renew. And if I used my Vincentian passport, I would have been able to enter Ethiopia visa free. And I think there was another country on that trip too that allowed visa free access, but I didn't have my passport. It would have taken too long. So that's why I didn't do that. But through my research, I knew that, you needed a visa to enter Ethiopia. I had paid for the visa about a week before departing to Ethiopia. But Krisan, just unlike the other countries, Tanzania and Kenya, where those visas came within 24 hours, the Ethiopia visa took quite some. I still do not have the visa to this day. And I need to actually probably go dispute that charge that Ethiopian airline did on my from my bank, but that's another story. But that never came, and so that was part of the reason why I never made it to Ethiopia, and I wasn't necessarily fretting that I didn't get the visa before I went to the airport, because from also what I read online was you can get the visa on arrival in Ethiopia. So in my head, okay, even if I didn't get the visa, I can show up to the airport there. I'm going to board the flight. I'm going to land in Addis, and then I'm going to join a visa on arrival line, and I'm going to pay for the visa there, and I'm going to be all right. That's not what happened. This is how it all ended in the Ethiopia part. I get to the airport. We took the ferry from Zanzibar to Dar es Salaam, and tip, which I'm sure you may have heard already, that you don't necessarily need to get back to Dar es Salaam, if you were trying to get to Dar es Salaam to start your trip, you don't necessarily need to get back from Dar es Salaam to go anywhere else. Zanzibar has an amazing airport that you can use. Stella actually departed from Zanzibar. She had changed her flight and departed from Zanzibar. But Ethiopian, what we had already known and what I had already known from the beginning of my trip, is not extremely flexible. You know, I had already learned this from even leaving from the US and how the customer service was at that point. When we called them to change the flight to Zanzibar, that didn't happen because they were inflexible. But we get to the airport in Dar es Salaam, and there is a checkpoint before you get to the check-in desk, which I'd never seen before, right? And their main purpose is to check for a visa. And Anthony obviously got through because he had his, and I couldn't go. So they were like, yeah, sir, you can't board the flight because you don't have a visa. Of course, in that moment, Anthony and I were a little bit flustered, right? Thank God Anthony went on. Thank God he didn't stay. He had to go on because Ethiopia was not gonna actually accommodate him if he had stayed back. Literally, in that moment, the people and the customer service representatives at the airport were not necessarily helpful. I remember after they told me that, I went to the customer service counter, not the check-in desk, and the lady was literally not even paid many attention. You know, she, at a certain point, she had to close the flight. She basically gave me the phone number for the Ethiopian embassy in Dar es Salaam and the US embassy. But by this time, it was 4 p.m. In the evening. Both embassies were closed. And it was at that time that I really knew that I was not going to Ethiopia. So I knew that I had to change plans. I had to figure this out. I didn't leave the airport until about 9 p.m. that night because I was trying to figure out different options, because I had already recognized, listen, Asshur, you got to get a different ticket, or Ethiopian got to change your ticket. So obviously I tried calling Ethiopian Airlines initially. Based on what the lady told me at the front desk, the customer service desk, she said there was a flight at 4 a.m. So if I got a visa by then or somehow got clearance, I could have gotten on that 4 a.m. flight. So I called Ethiopian. Basically, Ethiopian Airlines said to me, it's not their fault that I did not have a visa. And because of that, they are not liable for any of the mistakes that happened along the way.
Wow.
Basically, that's what happened. So they said if I wanted to use a ticket and if I wanted to fly, I had to pay a change fee, 1. I had to pay a penalty, 2, and I had to pay the fare difference. Yes. So I asked her, so how much would this be? Literally, she was quoting me a ticket price to get onto a flight the next day of upwards of $1,000+ $1,000. $1,000+ And, listeners, I was extremely upset. So all of this is making me upset in the moment. I'm like livid, just upset. I'm trying to figure out a solution. I usually work well under pressure. I usually am pain. I need to come up with a solution. So I wasn't going to be like, go off in the airport and some people can't control their emotions. I knew I had to come up with some sort of solution to get back home. So literally I knew I make sure you download the Flight Radar 24 app. That app will be very helpful for you guys. I went to the Flight Radar 24 app, and that's how you could see flights that like the flight schedule, what flights are departing, when they're landing. And so I went to the Flight Radar 24 app to see the flights that were going to take off for the night. I mean, I could have got up and gone to the flight board, but I had stationed myself at a certain area and I had Flight Radar 24 anyway. So I saw that there was a flight through KLM That was departing at 11 that night. I went to KLM's customer service desk, and they quoted me the price of $3,000. I was like, okay, you're not getting out of KLM today. So it was at that point, I was like, okay, let me just check into a hotel, because also through Flight Radar 24, I saw the flight times for the next day, which was the Saturday, and I had seen like there were Qatar flights with Qatar Airlines. So I was like, okay, maybe I could get myself a Qatar Airline flight to Qatar and either get Qatar to New York. I also saw I would use Flight Radar 24 and saw that Qatar, that American airline also flew from there. So that was an option. So I just went back to the I got a hotel. And it was there that I actually was trying to like figure things out. I called up a few friends who had connections in the airline industry. One of them was supposed to give me a buddy pass. At a certain point, I recognized that the buddy pass from American Airline, because I was going to take a flight from Dar es Salaam to Qatar, because the flight from Dar es Salaam to Qatar on Qatar Airways was $300, and the buddy pass would have probably been about $300. It would have been way less than what they were quoting me. And so I was going to do that. But thank God I didn't buy the flight from Dar es Salaam to Doha, because I later found out that on that American airline flight from Doha to New York, there were 8 slots available, but there were also 8 people on standby. And I was like, if I did that, then I was probably more than likely going to be on standby waiting to get on this flight, and probably wasn't going to get on the flight at all. So I was like, let me just go back and look at the flight I'd seen earlier that day. Listeners, Krisan, when I went back and looked at the flight that I'd seen earlier before, by this time it's like 2 a.m. Saturday morning. Remember, this debacle started on Friday. So 2 a.m., it was about, let's say 1:30. So I guess the next day had already come. So I think the flight prices changed. And so now the flight that I would have seen for about $1,000 earlier the day before was now $1,600. I was like, wait, everything was going through my head in that moment. I was like, okay, this is literally like about 3 or 4 tickets. This, that, and the third, like, I'm just going crazy. I'm like, I'm not paying that money. $1,600 for a one-way ticket, when the ticket I bought initially was not even that much. It was about $900 that I paid for this multiple city flight. So listen, I believe in God. I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian. And I'm telling you guys, in the moment, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I heard a voice and it literally said, go to Skiplag. Wow. I never used Skiplag. I've never booked a flight on Skiplag, and I went to Skiplag. As I'm on Skiplag, and I'm put it in, obviously, because I wanted to leave that Saturday. I put in basically that day. A flight popped up for $900. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I mean, yeah, I wish there was like $200 or less, but it was way cheaper than $1,600. So literally that flight was leaving from Dar es Salaam on Precision Airways, which, by the way, let me tell you guys, Precision Airways charge you for bags. So be very careful if you're going to fly Precision Airways, and you even have like a flight with Air France or KLM. Pay attention to your baggage allowance, because I had to pay an additional amount, which they don't accept cards, by the way.
Really?
They don't accept cards. I had to pay about $90 for my bag. Eesh. $90. And I had to find cash. There was this whole debacle at the airport. Cash. Tanzanian shillings. So basically I had a flight with Precision Air to Nairobi. That flight actually, it was a little, I mean, I was so tired. I was probably passed out for some of it. And Precision Air do serve foods. A lot of these airlines in Africa, they do serve food. So I remember the morning they served tea and, a sandwich or something like that. that. But that flight was going from, Dar es Salaam to Kilimanjaro to, I think, Nairobi. I don't think it did another stop. So basically the flight it was Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar, I think Zanzibar to Kilimanjaro and to Nairobi. Basically the way I came to Dar es Salaam. And so when we were in Nairobi, the Air France flight was delayed for about an hour. And so I had literally an hour layover in France, or my layover was supposed to be an hour. I was supposed to land at 6:30 and I was supposed to depart France at 7:30. So because we were obviously delayed an hour, in my head I was like, unless this pilot somehow finds magic and makeup time in the air, which sometimes that happens. I knew it was supposed to be a 9-hour flight. I'm like, maybe they're blocking extra time for whatever is supposed to happen on the ground. But that's not what happened. It needed that hour. The flight landed, it left an hour late and it landed an hour later. So it landed at 7:30. And so when it landed, I was like, yeah, I am not making this flight. So basically, because the flight landed an hour later, Air France, was really kind. They were really nice. And I knew that when things like that happen, it is not on you, the passenger. The airline has to accommodate you. They have to rebook you. Well, I don't know how Ethiopian would fare in these scenarios, but most airlines generally rebook you and they provide you with a hotel. They provide you with meal vouchers. But Air France, like the representative at Air France was like, you don't necessarily have to go on what we had already rebooked you at 7:30 the next morning. You could depart any time. Maybe I should have asked him for 2 days in Paris, but I was like, put me on the latest flight the next day. So he did. Literally the same flight I was supposed to leave on the day before, I left on that flight. So the 7:30 p.m. flight on the I think the Sunday. So literally that's the backstory to having the opportunity to spend 24 hours in Paris. Let me try to say that in French. 21 heures à Paris. I think that's how you say it.
Listen, I only took Spanish in school. I did not take French. So if you're looking for me,
it's 20. So 21 under 24, no, under 24, 21, hour is un pays. Yes, okay. I think that's how you say it.
Well, we'll see what the French people say.
French people weighed on this.
Do you want them to weigh on it? I don't know.
And the French are very particular with their language, so yeah. So that's the backstory.
So it sounds like you had quite an adventure. Touch you for that backstory, and I'm glad that you made it out in one piece, basically, for all that going on. And we're going to touch on the airline industry in general, because we have a lot to say. But that's for another episode. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
But when we come back from our break, we're going to dive right into the main conversation, which is basically what you end up doing in Paris. So,
stay tuned.
And we're back from our break. I hope you guys didn't miss us too much. I keep asking that if you miss us. But I miss you guys. That's the truth. But we're going to just dive right into the main conversation now. You heard the backstory.
Backstory.
You're right. And now you know how he got his 24 hours in Paris. So, Mr. Cunningham, how did you spend your time in France? In Paris?
Yeah. So, so one of the things and it's the same thing with a lot of major cities, and I think Europe does a good job with connecting airports to major cities. So the Charles de Gaulle Airport, and I think even Orly, I think, which is the other airport, they're not necessarily right in Paris, which makes sense, right? Like these major airports can't be smack dab in the city. They're going to build them on the outskirts. So we were literally on the outskirts of Paris. So that's where the airport was. So the airport hotel was on the outskirts. So I remember when we landed, I actually met this gentleman who's Kenyan, who lives in the US, and we actually connected, right? So like we were supposed to go out on the town and just enjoy Paris, right? So when we got to the hotel, because both of our flights were delayed, so they basically had a lot of the people who were on that flight. A lot of us were in that hotel. So we were supposed to go to Paris that night. And so when we learned that the price for the Uber was about $40, we're like, I don't know about that. $40 from there to Paris. But then I was also I was tired, to be quite frank. Because remember, like I literally hadn't slept the night before. Remember, I went to the airport. I was supposed to be in Ethiopia at 7:30 and, go out that night and then go sleep. But remember, I got stuck. I used that night to be researching, and then I basically went to the airport. So didn't sleep, and there was a whole time difference between the flight from Kenya to France. So I hadn't slept. So by the time I landed in France, to be truthful, I was drained. And I was saying to myself, I couldn't even imagine going on another 8-hour flight to New York, because the flight from Nairobi to Paris was about 9 hours. Woo. So yes. So we again, we're planning to go to Paris the first night. We literally didn't go into the city. So we basically ordered pizza, and we talked there. When you meet, listen, these are opportunities to just meet different people and connect with people, right? Traveling gives you a whole lot of opportunities to that. So it was nice to connect with a brother from Kenya, right? So that's what happened the first night. And then the next day I planned to, get up, get breakfast. So I got, French breakfast, which is basically baguette, French baguette, which was really good. The baguette was really good. It was tasty. It was fresh. I usually would do the baguette with, maybe some jam or butter or just something else, some what you call it, Nutella, whatever you want to eat the baguette with some coffee or tea or orange juice, whatever you had. So they had basically that continental type breakfast with French baguette. So I had my breakfast, and then literally I checked out at about 11 and, head to the airport. I was trying to take the bus, like the cheapest way, and the cheapest way was hop on a bus to the airport, which was about 10 or so minutes, and take the train from the airport into Paris. But let me tell you, I do not like taking buses. I get lost on buses, especially it's the direction. So I think I literally waited the wrong direction. The bus came, the bus driver. So I think I'm saying to the bus driver, by the way, by French, when I get to speak in French in Paris, even though I learned some of it in school, as you can see, some of it was really bad. I'm telling the driver where I need to go, and she's like, no, it's the other side. I'm like, oh crap. And I recognize that if I wait for this bus, I may just be cutting into my time. So I just called an Uber, and it took me to the airport terminal I needed to get to take the bus, to take the train. And the train ride from the airport into Paris was about an hour. It's about $21 or 21 euros from Paris round trip from the airport to the city center of Paris. Well, to where I was going, or just into Paris. And so honestly, before, in the morning, I researched the best place to go, or where I think I could see the most things. Because remember, I had been to Paris before. So I was like, I need to be able to see the most things in this short time, because even though it was 24 hours, it wasn't 24 hours of me doing things. It was, at that time, it was literally now about 6 or 7 hours, right? Of me, because I wasted time in the morning. And so I was like, oh, maybe I should go to down the Champs-Élysées. I think that's how you say that, because I do know in that area, that's where the Arc de Triomphe is, or the Arc de Triomphe Arch. I do know that, like, in that area, you could also walk to the Eiffel Tower based on which avenue you go down. And also on that avenue, there's just a lot of good shopping to do. So I was like, maybe this is where I should go, because I could do a lot there. And so that's where I went. The first stop was the Arc de Triomphe, the Triumphant Arch. And then I basically walked down. I wanted to do a little shopping because I wanted to see if I could get myself like a cologne in Paris, right? And so, you know, I'm a big Mont Blanc fan. They had the Mont Blanc store there. Yes, I went into Mont Blanc, and you know, I learned something that day. So the one of the agents in the store, I was testing fragrances, and so I had tested the first one, and I couldn't necessarily clear my palette, and so we came outside, and that's when she sprayed it on me, and it was really different. I was like, wow, this is really interesting, right? Yeah, I guess the fresh air does something. I guess that's the French way.
Interesting. Usually we use coffee beans too.
Coffee beans, exactly. And the coffee wasn't there. Like, we walked outside. It was a nice day, and that's how I sampled a different one. And so, like, I did that, went to Sephora, fell in love with this Dior fragrance. I knew that I wanted to get that fragrance, but I was like, I'm not going to go into Dior across the street, because maybe I could get that fragrance cheaper at the airport. And I certainly did. But also went to just walk the avenue, and there were just a lot of things to see. My friend actually had recommended that I visit this French bakery. This they are known for their macaroons. It's called Le Dre. We'll put it in the show notes. It's a famous bakery. There were lines, like there was literally a bouncer at the door, and you had to line up, and you go in, and you know, you place your order. Really, you know, obviously, you know, the French put these things together. It was well presented. The macaroon was tasty. It was delicious. I actually brought some back to the US, and literally, so it was that walk the Champs-Élysées, saw the Eiffel Tower when I was on my way to Jardin de something, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I'll put that garden in the notes. But there, you know, obviously France is known for its garden, how they're laid out, you know. Went in there, but actually before I got in there, I was like, let me get some lunch before I go to the airport. And I picked myself up some crepes, sat in this really nice little restaurant that was literally right outside the garden, kind of tuck away in the wall of the garden, like the wall. And so, like, there were these nice small windows that you could actually sit in and have your meal. And I remember sitting in there, and people walk by, because you're sitting there eating, and people are like, you're down on the ground, and people are passing by looking like, wait, is that person real, or is this really happening? It was really, like, really nice. The food was also nice, but I think just doing that alone topped the experience. So I did that with the intent, because again, remember, my whole intention was to go somewhere where I knew I can do a lot, and I knew I could end my time at the Louvre. And so like I was going down this entire path and sightseeing with the intention to get to the Louvre to, you know, get those pictures where you put your hands up. I don't think I got the perfect shot, but I did it. Someone took it for me. But you know, on this trip, I actually was able to see another side of the Louvre, because I remember when I came there a few years ago, I probably just went to the Louvre. I actually had never gone inside the Louvre, which, you know, next time I go to Paris, I would want to go in, because that's where I think the Mona Lisa is. But I just went on another side, on another avenue, and it was just beautiful. This place is huge. And it was after the Louvre, I was gonna head right back to the airport, because my flight was at 7, so I needed to be back at the airport at about 5 or 5:30. And, you know, I literally, on my way back to the airport, to the train, to the airport, I stopped at this, you know, pharmacy. And, you know, pharmacies have like, because I wanted to pick up deodorant because I had already packed everything. And I picked up a deodorant called Vichy, Vichy. And I tell you, I'm in love with this deodorant. And so I came back to the US with the intent to see to buy it, right? Because I like it, because I love the fragrance. I bought this thing in Paris for about €5, $5. When I'm looking online here, guess how much it is?
How much? Like 20?
It's about $20.
$20.
$20.
Of course.
I was like, wow. So this just shows you like how it, you know, some things are just better bought in Paris or outside of the US than buying them here.
So, wow. What a 24 hours well spent. It sounds
well
like
spent indeed.
I know. And it sounds like you learned a lot just from 24 hours. Like, really, just going to the heart of the city, you could experience so much in a little time. You can eat somewhere, you can shop somewhere, you could see different sights, you could try new foods, and it's just so condensed. How was your experience this time around in comparison to the last time you went to Paris?
Good question. You know, well, the last time I went to Paris, I was actually coming from London. So I took the train from London to Paris, and you know, that bullet train, and that's how I was in Paris, and I was there for a few days. I actually stayed the last time with a friend, and I, you know, her apartment was literally in view of the Eiffel Tower. And you know, at that time I didn't know that the Eiffel Tower like does this sparkly thing at night. Like I think every hour like it sparkles. I was like, and that was like really,
that's
like
pretty.
Beautiful, pretty. It was just like really nice. And to be waking up to this or going to sleep to this was really nice. The last time I was in Paris, you know, obviously I had a lot more time. It wasn't a long time, but I had a lot more time to like browse around and just take the subway and just go different places. This time, obviously, I was there for a short time, so I had to really be conscious of exactly where I want to go and be very conscious of time. I would say, though, the last time I was in Paris, you know, everybody is in love with, you know, the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe. These are the places that people usually talk about when they mention Paris. But interestingly, the last time I was in Paris, the place that I fell in love with was called Montmartre. And, you know, I loved that place. I felt it. So Montmartre, I think, is also a neighborhood, but there's this church or castle on the top of a hill that just looks, it's just really beautiful. It's serene. I've also heard you can get amazing food around it. You get amazing food all over Paris, but it was just a really nice experience being in that Montmartre neighborhood. So Those are the differences, but this is the tip I would say to you. Just if you're going to Paris, make sure you visit Montmartre. Don't just go to like the top Parisian attractions like the Eiffel Tower. Yes, you want to see that, but Montmartre, I'm gonna tell you, is a place you should certainly check out.
Duly noted, because I have not been to Paris yet. So I'm taking notes as well as you're telling me. But I guess it makes sense. You have more time than the other time, but it probably really helped you know where to go for your 24 hours when you came back.
Correct. So it's exactly because of that why this was so like well planned, even because they, usually when you ask people, or I even asked a hotel agent, and he was like, I could go many places. Like I could have gone to some gardens, I could have gone to some palaces, but it may have been just me going to a palace. If I had gone to a different area, it probably was that one thing in that area. But where I went, I kind of knew there was a lot to do, hence why I chose that area.
And that's a good tip. If you only have a certain amount of time, go to one location that has a lot of different things.
Correct.
And that's how you make use of your layovers.
Yeah.
So
true.
One last thing I would love to ask. So you gave your suggestions, and you mentioned that you've been shopping in Paris. Now, right now, to this date, the US dollar is a smidge stronger than the euro. So what this smidge, like a little bit, like I think for €1 right now it's like 0.98 US. So it's a smidge like stronger. So did you see any difference on your end in terms of buying things?
Yeah. What I remember the last time I was in Paris or Europe, because I was in Europe last summer, and last summer I would say that things were expensive. Like you may buy let's say you have a dinner, and the dinner it's 25 euros or 50 euros. You have to estimate above that for your meal, so that 50 euro may be 60 euro. But what I found here was that I was paying either on par to what I would pay in the US, which to us that's good, or even less. So this the fragrance was, I think, about 75 euros. So that would have been about the same amount for a large bottle. Actually, I would have probably gotten it cheaper there than I would have gotten it here, because it was tax free, and a fragrance like that is a little bit more expensive here. So yeah, things I think right now are definitely cheaper. You aren't, I don't think you're necessarily clutching your wallet like, oh my God, I just spent $50 on something that is basically $30 or $40, right? So yeah, you'll get along better now than back then.
So it was the perfect timing to go then, when the
perfect.
Listen, God knows all. And that's all I'm going to say. So thank you for sharing how you spent your 24 hours. Of course, all the information and details are going to be in the notes, so make sure you check out for that. And as we go to our second break, we're going to just close this conversation, do our little shout out, and we're going to play a little game. So stay tuned. Okay. Yeah, I like games. You like games here. So stay tuned.
All right, stay tuned.
And we're back once again, our listeners. Thank you for staying and listening to the back story and the front story and the side story of 24 hours in Paris. It's quite an adventure from literally start to finish. And, you know, one thing we can take away from this is that sometimes plans don't go the way we want it to go.
Yeah.
But you will always learn something if you're traveling, period. There's always something to learn. And sometimes it's for your benefit. Like this is the time right now, if you are American with $1, start shopping in Europe. And I think you even said that, Asher. So look at that. You ended up where you wished you were.
That is the truth. This is the time to go to Europe to certainly shop. I think we talked about it where people come to New York all the time, and I think we talked about this before, but I think if you're going to vacation and you're going to go to Europe anyway, just save your dollars and go over there, shop, carry an empty suitcase, and come back with a different wardrobe. New York may have, according to people, trendy and new things, but New York is expensive.
Amen to that. And we're going to close out that conversation. But a quick shout out first to one of our fellow followers and good friends. I'm going to do the IG handle first because it's quite long. It's Aisha. So that's Aisha. That's Aisha. Ayeesha. Aisha. And then again, Aisha. So that's quite long, but that's fine because she has a extensive, beautiful feed of her travels in Europe. She's from the UK, so it's easy for her to get around Europe, and she showcased it in so many different ways. So quite a beautiful feed. Thank you for being, so shout out to her. Beautiful feed. So we promised a game, and we're going to give it to you. And my favorite game, and probably the only game I played so far, is This or That.
We gotta get a new game. We gotta get a new one.
Oh yes, we do. You know what? We will. We'll have a new game.
But this one works.
This one works. I love this game. Come on now. Okay, so This or That. So Paris or London?
Ooh. Okay. London or Paris? Wow. It's difficult. Wow. I think because I have friends in London, a lot more friends in London, like London usually is a good time because of that. But wow, they're two different cities, different languages, and
clearly.
Oh,
so which one?
Let me say London for now.
Okay.
But wow.
Because
I've never actually, you know what? Let me say this. I've never actually turn up in Paris. So maybe
first
that
time for everything.
Yeah. So I probably need to go back and get a hold of the Parisian nightlife.
The nightlife.
Nightlife. I need to do that. So I'll say London.
Okay. We'll accept that. So, okay. If you had the choice and the airline gave you a choice between a long layover, so being able to do a 24-hour layover wherever, or to get a first class upgrade, which would you pick?
Wow, Krisan, Jesus.
That's why I love this game. Like a Russian roulette.
Wow.
Which one?
A long layover. I mean, what comes with the long layover?
Well, you get to stay in a different city.
So everything would be on my expense.
Well, I guess so, yeah.
So with that said, I would do the first class upgrade.
Okay. So you'll pass over doing a layover. Okay. All right, yeah. I'll accept that too. And then finally, I'll give you a breather a little bit. Air France or Virgin Atlantic?
Ooh, this is even a breather as well. I mean, wow. These two good airlines. I mean, wow.
Which one? I love this game.
Jesus, it's easy to differentiate American or Delta. Delta
I know that.
wins, right?
I know that.
Oh God! But Air France or Virgin?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I would. You know what? Okay, let me say Air France.
Okay. Wow.
You know why? Oh God. It's
like a life or death.
It's like this is really difficult. Because they're not so far apart that. Like there are subtle differences, but I do think, like, I remember on that leg, I was really comfortable on Air France, like really comfortable. So that's why I would say Air France. And I remember coming from Nairobi to Paris, and it was just like, I don't know, it just felt so comfortable, so refreshing, so relaxed. Like the crew, and this was actually, and the Virgin crew does this too, or I've seen them do this as well. You may not get that on any American airline, any American type airline, but I remember when the crew actually came in to the crew comes into the terminal to go into the plane. And so I was in Nairobi. There are these layers. Like, we weren't necessarily inside the area where we were gonna go board the plane. There was this line outside where the ladies checking your passport to see if you can really go into that boarding area. And so the crew passed there, and they were just so upbeat and just had such a positive spirit, and I think they were just saying hello, hi, good morning. I was like, wow, that was really nice. And stuff like that actually makes you feel more relaxed and at ease. And so I think once I saw that, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a good flight.
Wow.
And it was a good flight.
Wow. Air France over Virgin Atlantic. Huh.
So, yeah, and interestingly, I actually just did a quick search on the top airlines, the best airlines in Europe. So I was right. Air France is number 2. And I agree. It's literally Turkish Airlines, which I'm not surprised about. Turkish, Swiss, British, Lufthansa, KLM, and Virgin is number 7. So
number 7. Wow.
Virgin is number 7.
Wow.
And you know what? There was also a difference in, like, with Air France, like, you did not, I forgot this. You did not, so first of all, I remember Virgin service is not bad. They're really good, but I remember that their portions could be a little bit small. And so I remember, like, I could get off the plane that I felt hungry. With Air France, I didn't necessarily feel hungry. I was okay. And I remember actually when we're coming from Nairobi to Paris, I asked for fish. And I guess the fish was so good that I asked for another one. But the guy next to me, who we hadn't talked with the entire flight, but I guess we both had the same idea. Let's both get another fish dish. And so that was the only time we literally talked. But you literally did not feel, I didn't feel hungry on the Air France flight. And you know what I really loved? They had, at the end of the flight, when they're giving you the second service, depending on wherever you are, because the second service could mean that they're just giving you a snack or they're giving you breakfast, but they give you this, or I think it's a snack service or whatever it is. It comes in this nice little bag, this little like paper bag, like one of those Gucci may give you these type of bag, and they give you the snack in one of those bags. I was like, wow, this is good. So yeah, Air France comes in as number 2. So it's
what
up there.
What a nice experience we had.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the end of that game. sorry for making you sweat a little bit, but you got to work a little bit in this.
Sweat.
So, thank you guys for listening to this episode. Just to remind you to just keep supporting our podcast. Become a monthly contributor and continue to hear our great stories. We love to hear from you as well. So if you leave any comments, any feedback, we would love to hear it. So just simply go to anchor.fm/YoungBlackTravelers. That's anchor.fm/YoungBlackTravelers. And you can give all your feedback and comments and subscribe to us. We love to hear that you listen to our stories and get impact from it. Also, to be mindful in your travels right now. Now, the pandemic is dying down a little bit, but in general, I just want you to be mindful in your travels. Continue to keep a good sanitary practice wherever you go. You're around a lot of people, so take precautions. And I think that's it. I think that was a great episode, right, Asher?
That was the listeners will be the judge of that, but it was fun. It was a fun one. Listen, we do these episodes so you could learn, and hopefully you learned from this episode. At least take away that Air France is a top airline. So maybe if you're looking at airlines to choose, maybe Air France could be that one.
You hear it here. You hear it from Asher.
By the way, hold on. I know we're ending, but another tip, and I'm starting to do this, is to really stay within the alliances, because that's how you're going to maximize on miles. And so I think one of the practices that I'm going to start doing right now, because I was one of those guys who would just go to Google Flights or wherever, skip lag, and find whomever's the cheapest. But I'm gonna be very conscious to select airlines that either fit, for me, based on where I live currently and where I'm accruing miles, either fit into the One World Alliance, which is like British Airways, American Airline. From my perspective as an American and a New Yorker, and usually American Airline is big here. I can get flights to anywhere in the world. Or the Sky Team Alliance, which Virgin, Air France, KLM, and Delta is a part of. So those are going to be like my two go-to. And I usually people will do one, but I'm going to try to balance between two, because I do believe there are places that American go that Virgin doesn't go, and vice versa. So that Delta doesn't go. So that's a tip.
Wow.
Like, choose flights and airlines kind of within the same team or alliance, because that's a great way to maximize on miles, because I was able to claim my Air France miles into my Delta account. I was not able to claim my Ethiopian miles. I don't even know where those things are.
Oh, Lord.
All that money I paid, right? But at least I was able to recoup some Air France miles. I think for this trip about 7,000 or so miles.
Wow. That's quite nice. So you're going to learn all these tips and all the stuff in the notes below. So just a quick reminder as well. Look into the notes for all this information so that you too can have a great experience in your next travel. So with that said, au revoir.
Au revoir. À tout à l'heure.
Oh, woo-hoo. Bye, guys.